The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to today's Design Manager webinar. My name is Jana and I will be moderating today's webinar. We have our guest Phyllis Harbinger of Harbinger Design Consulting here. She's also an owner of DCI Studio and is a professional member of ASID. That's just to name a few of her accomplishments here. She wears many hats. Phyllis has been partnering with us for quite some time. She's been using our software for years, so we love coming together and presenting relevant information for the design community. She'll be discussing the importance of representing your brand today, which will be followed by a Q&A session. Everyone can enter their questions for Phyllis in the questions panel on the GoToWebinar screen, and we'll be answering as many questions as we can at the end. So without further ado, let's get started and learn more about how we can represent our brands better.
Okay, hi, Jana. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Jana, for having me here with your people, who are also my people, because I also use Design Manager and have for a very, very long time. So let's get right into it. We are going to cover identifying the importance of representing your brand. And I really want to work on reinforcing the principle of brand identity with all of you, and provide some insight to you why our personal appearance really has an impact on the way others perceive who we are and what we do. So let's start with your brand as being your DNA. It really is your DNA. It's your composition. And while DNA can't be shifted, your brand absolutely can. But it is unique. It's unique to you. It's unique to your office culture. And it really is the soul and the driving force of your business. So staying true to your distinctive brand DNA is really going to put you in a much more powerful position within the marketplace. There are a lot of interior designers out there, but we all have our own unique brilliance. And that's what I'd like you to think about today. What makes you different? So when you're thinking about a brand, it's not just what you see in terms of your visual brand, your logo, your design. It's also how you do everything in your business. So how are you building trust? Think about brands that build trust. What does your logo look like? What is your identity? What is your niche? Where do you want to pull your clients from? Where is your ideal client coming from? And how are you advertising your brand and marketing it to your target audience? Those are all the very, very important things in a brand, but most important is the value that you bring to a project. Your value proposition is unique in this marketplace, and figuring out what your value proposition is the strategy that I'd like you all to be working on and thinking about as we go through this presentation. So each one of you, I want you to think about, what is your brand standing for? Where do you rank in the mind of your target market? Who is your target market? And how do you relate to the competition that you have? That's your brand position. And as we all know, with the advent of HGTV, Wayfair, and all other online resources that we have at our beck and call, your ability to clearly define and effectively communicate your brand is more powerful and more needed than ever before. And how do you accomplish this? It's through your design vocabulary. Your design vocabulary consists of your visual vocabulary, the work that you're doing and what you're putting out there for the world to see. How are you communicating with your clients and building that trust factor with them? And are you using this language of design in everything that you do? In addition, your appearance and your presence, who you are when you walk in a room, how does that relate back to your brand? Think about Coco Chanel. Everybody knew who she was, always in her black. She was always this graceful, artful person. Everybody knew who she was. So I want you to think about your persona and how you're relating back to your brand. When you communicate your brand in this way, it is most powerful and effective method for which you can grow your business. I had a mentor who always really branded with her colors. She had this orange and pink color scheme, and she really wore orange quite a bit. She used it in everything she did. The flowers on the tables always had orange. There was just a rhythm and repetition, as we say in our design vocabulary, to how she looked, how her branding worked, and how everything she did reflected back to that brand. So we talked a little bit in the beginning. How do you want to be perceived? Because you individually, I want you to think about, how do you want to be perceived in your target market? Who is your target market? Are they upscale? Are they millennials, youth-oriented? Are they very traditional? Are they cost conscious, budget conscious, or are they luxury minded? And that's not to say that luxury minded individuals are not also thinking about what they're spending, because more than ever they are, and I'm seeing that with my heritage clients that I've had for 15 years or so. They're now thinking in a much more budget oriented way than they ever did in the past. And also, as we said before, what you wear and how you represent yourself should always send that powerful message to your clients. So if you're caught out at the shopping center and you're not looking your best and you run into a client, how will that make you look and how will they perceive how you look? So I want you to just really think about that at all aspects. You never know who you're going to run into, who you're going to meet, and where that's going to happen. So be sure you're always sending that correct message. And then I wanted to just talk about, people buy from people they trust. People like to do business with those they know and trust. And that's why a lot of people got into networking and getting into networking groups, because you want to do business with people that you know and trust. So creating that trust factor from the get-go with everything you do in your brand and being consistent is going to build trust in your brand and create brand loyalty. So your branding can really sustain and it can communicate your social self and the true identity of your firm, whether you're a single practitioner, whether you have a small boutique firm, or whether you're in a large firm. So for example, luxury real estate buyers will go to Christie's or Sotheby's to list their home because that represents the higher level of prestige. They want to tap into luxury buyers. The people that are selling want to be with those buyers. So think about, who is that market? Christie's and Sotheby's knows who their target market is. And there's a powerful attraction for self-expression that makes somebody make a decision about you versus another design firm when it comes to the hiring process. What are you bringing to the table when you interview or when people go to your website to review your portfolio? Because that's how everybody does it today. Gone are the days where we made an appointment and we brought our beautiful bound portfolios that were embossed and we sat with the client and talked about our projects. So what message are you sending to have somebody want to be skewed to hire you? And we wear brand names. They elevate our perception to others with regard to our status. So I remember when I started really coming into the luxury market, and my husband said to me, "You really need to get a higher luxury car." I said, "No, I don't. I'm the designer. It might put people off." And this was about, I don't know, 15 years ago that this happened. I said, "I'm fine with my regular car. I love it." He said, "No, it's really not acceptable. You need to drive up, that you own who you are, because this is the type of design client that you have stepped into now. So you need to represent that." So I'm not saying that you have to do that, but that changed things for me. When I drove up in a Mercedes or I drove up in a higher end car, it elevated my firm and who I was with my clients. And they made comments about it. I was actually very surprised about that. And then when we think about heritage brands, now there are some firms that have been around since the dawn of time and they are heritage brands, but also if we think about retail heritage brands, they absolutely aid in creating an impression of increase. So if you're wearing heritage brands, it shows that you have that impression of increase. What does an impression of increase mean? It means that people see you as successful. It's how you look, what you do, how you speak, the type of clients that people see you with, and that all absolutely spells your impression of increase. So I believe we all know these particular heritage brands: Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Scalamandre in our industry, a heritage brand, and Cartier. So when you think about these brands, you think about luxury, you think about a long, long history, and you think about the fact that you know and trust a brand that has these types of quote unquote legs. So what I really want you to think about now is brand consistency across all your platforms. And we're going to take a look at how Cartier really, really pushes their brand across all of their social platforms. And if some of you are not yet as web savvy and social savvy as others that are on this webinar, I really charge you to take a hard look at what's happening in terms of social media and where you stand within that realm. Because if you are not engaged in social media, you are really missing out on an absolute universe of clients that could really be part of your business. And I'm not just saying for luxury, it doesn't matter what your target audience is, you're missing out. I happen to be in a group, and one of my dear friends who came out of being the wife of one of my great colleagues and vendors referred me to someone who wants to do a hotel in Scotland. That never would have happened if I was not engaged in social media. Never, ever. So I really want you to think about that. And so how does Cartier do it? Well, let's take a look. So when we look here, this is Cartier's website. Luxury, they change it out all the time, but you can see that the Cartier brand is always very, very prominent on all of their social platforms. Here we're on Twitter, and you can see what they're doing here on Twitter. You can see their Facebook page and their Instagram page. So there's a brand consistency in everything that they do. And that's what I want you to think about when you're starting to put your brand into Instagram, which I highly recommend you do, having a Facebook page for your business versus just having your personal page, getting a Twitter account if you haven't done that already, and thinking about, is it time to revamp your website, to freshen it, make it cleaner, make sure it's responsive so that it looks the same and it responds really quickly on all platforms, whether you're mobile or whether you're on a desktop or a laptop. Okay, so your first impressions. I'm not sure that all of you know, but you only have 7 seconds to make a first impression, and 55% of that impression is absolutely visual. So that's why I'm saying to you, whatever you think you're doing when you get dressed in the morning, I want you to take a little bit more time to think about what you're doing. Let's look at a couple of examples. So here we have the classic, very tailored, beautiful pencil skirt with a suit jacket. You really understand who this person is. They're a professional. When I look at this person, I don't really feel that same vibe that I'm feeling when I look at our first image here. The dress is too tight, this little flower here, the red accents. It's just not sending the message of someone that's as well put together as the first. And for you guys on the call, here we have a more casual guy, but he's still buttoned up, tie, nice pressed shirt, tailored pants, and nice Oxford shoes. And then this guy is wearing a jacket. He's a little more casual too, no tie, but he's got the suit. So where do you fit in, and how do you fit in with your office culture? And how do you fit in with your client, your target audience, your target market? That's what I want you to figure out. And these are just 4 examples. There's a million different ways that people dress, and these are just 4 that I wanted to put up here to get you thinking. Okay, so we talked about your personal reflection of your company's brand. Everything communicates. Your visual, your posture communicates. If you're always slumped over, that communicates someone that's not really present and confident in themselves. So thinking about your posture is super important. Your sound of your voice, if you're going to speak in a very timid voice, that's not going to give the impression that you're very confident and that you are someone that could control the project of a wonderful client that wants to give you a large-scale project or a small-scale project. You want them to have that confidence in you. You also want to make sure that your handshake is strong, because that also sends a message. And the words that you use send a message. So be very careful with the words that you select when you're speaking about your business and anytime you're speaking. And you want to strive to be top of mind so that when someone has an opportunity to hire you or refer you, they remember you. What does your business card look like? Is it just your average rectangular card? Do you have a photo on the card that makes somebody remember you? Is it a square card? Is it a fold over card? How are you creating an impression for someone that they are going to remember you and refer you? When you meet someone, do you send them a little note afterward, whether via email or snail mail, or do you go and connect with them on LinkedIn or Insta? How are you shaping that relationship with someone? Because everybody can be a source of referral for you. This is really how you shape not only the relationships that you create, but also your personal brand. So I want you to really pay attention to your look, and it's not just the composition of your outfit that day, but your entire look, as others do. Because believe me, people watch. Your prospects, your clients, your vendors, they all take note of what you're looking like in your presence and your attire, and they do formulate judgments and opinions about you. That visual information is their first cue because they don't know you. So I want you to really, really think about that. When I teach, I'm a professor at FIT and I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm just going to share a very quick little story with all of you. I was always wearing dresses or a very nice pantsuit to class. And one day, this was early on in my career at FIT, I think I might have been in my second or third year there, and I've been there now for 20 years. And I walked in one day in a very nice pair of jeans with a white button-down shirt and a blue blazer and black boots. And I came in and I'm setting up, and my students are all looking at me like something is wrong. Like they all had a look of surprise on their face. And I'm like, is everything okay? What's wrong? And one student was brave enough to say, we didn't even know you own jeans. And I started laughing, and everybody in the class started laughing because people absolutely perceive you based on what they get used to. So think about that. Now, I was very professionally dressed, and in our college, jeans are very appropriate, especially if they're nice jeans and you come in with a blazer and you look the part of a professor. But that gave me pause. It really did. And I started really thinking about, what about this message should I look at? So I want you all to think about that. And reflect, who's the most influential person that you know that you strive to match their level of professionalism, not just in business, but also in their attire? What do they wear consistently? What about their look could you bring into your look so that that creates the impression that you want to give to your target audience? So basically what I'm asking you to do is to create an avatar. An avatar is someone that you emulate. It might be a mentor. It might be someone that you follow, that you're a fan of. And think about, how are they doing things every day? What about them makes them special? What is that special quality that you can translate to your own brand and make it your own? Because you are a unique individual, you have your own unique brilliance, and people are going to come to you because of the package that you bring. How you do anything is how you do everything. This is a quote that I learned about 7 years ago from one of my mentors, and I think about it all the time. Even if I'm going out to the yoga studio, people are looking. People know I'm a designer. They look at you. They want to understand. So I really want you to think about this. And this applies to every detail. We're designers. It's all in the details with everything that we do. So think about, how are you representing your brand across the board? What are you doing when you send your team out to accept deliveries? What are your protocols around that? Do you have checklists that you use for every step of your business? Are you getting car services to have your clients picked up when you're meeting them at a showroom? Or are you preparing a lunch for them when you're having a meeting at your office? Are you ordering something in so that you're all comfortable? Think about all of this, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So self-expression, when you're thinking about your brand, it really can convince potential clients to hire you. Jamie Drake, here on the right, he is the Prince of Color. He made his name by using color not only in his interiors, but it was also in his attire. This is a huge part of his brand, and the people that work within his firm absolutely represent his brand. So I want you to think about that, because people do identify with brands for different reasons. They might just love your vibe. They love who you are. They love the way you speak. They love the way you pull things together, or your personality, or you're bubbly, or maybe you're very formal and that's what that client wants. They want to tap into your energy, because your energy is what they're praying will drive the project. They want to have that confidence that you can drive the project. And they want to take that message that you're sending out about your brand, and they want to bring that to their own space. And I remember I once had a client very early on that said, we love what you did for our friends, and we want you to do exactly the same thing for us. And I immediately said, no, I can't do that, because you are a unique couple, just as your friends are a unique couple. And so I'm going to deliver a design to you that represents you, not your friends. We'll use that same vibe perhaps and bring it into your color palette, the things that you love, what makes your heart sing. And that solidified everything. So think about that as you're going through your pitches with potential clients. So when you're targeting, you want to think about who that target niche is. If it's millennials, how are you expressing your brand personality so that you're going to attract a millennial, for instance? They may be what a good friend of mine, Pam Danziger, calls the Henrys, which are high earning, not yet rich individuals. They're all over, and they could be your future clients if you're looking for them. But you have to think about how you target them. Are they going to want to open a snail mail card from you? Probably not. Are they going to want you to target them on Insta or other social platforms? Absolutely. They're also going to want to communicate with you that way throughout your work together. So you have to think about who is this target audience and how are you going to get into their space so that you can create your brand awareness with them. So who we are. Brands, they are like people, and people are absolutely brands. Jamie Drake, now he combined forces with Anderson, and they are Drake Anderson, but for a long time, he was the brand. He was the ultimate of Prince of Color. When you think of Chanel, it is the brand. And just yesterday, I saw that Kristen Stewart is now a brand ambassador for Chanel. And that's a whole different take that they're doing. So think about, how are you representing your brand? Who are you trying to reach? They're definitely trying to reach a younger audience by putting her on the map. So what are you doing? What are you doing with your office culture? Is everybody walking to the same beat as you are when you're representing your brand? Do people come in dressed in your office culture garb? In some offices, they like to use khakis and starched shirts and pencil skirts, and in other offices, it might be like this boho chic. In other offices, it's suits and ties, not so much in our industry anymore, but still in some offices it is. And so you really need to think about how everyone that you're doing business with reflects your brand. Even your vendors, how are they showing up? White glove delivery, your workroom installers, all of it, how are they showing up? Because the brand definitely has a personality. Now, your brand might be traditional, it might be edgy. You might have a sense of humor that you love to bring into your brand. There are a lot of designers that are just hilarious, and that's what draws clients to them, their exuberance. But it could be a combination of any of the above or others. So I want to take a look at some images that really do reflect individual style and see if any of those fit. There's, I'm not going to go through every type of personality of a brand, but we're going to give you a couple to just kind of think about. So first, you have Karim Rashid. He is funky. He definitely has a presence, from his signature to the way he looks, to the way he speaks, to his designs being very futuristic and very organic and very out there. And that appeals to a lot of people. How about edgy? Kelly Wurtzler, in her designs for residential, commercial, hospitality, in her product designs, she has a very edgy kind of vibe. Boho chic. Maybe you want to use a Fortuny pendant in your space, or you want to have like a cacophony of different patterns and colors and textures. It's so in right now, the boho chic look. Maybe that's your vibe. And it was pretty much the vibe of a number of rooms at the designer show house that Traditional Home put on in the Hamptons that I went to see this weekend. I was really amazed to see the amount of boho chic design that was displayed there. And maybe you're organic. Think about Clodagh. She's made her name on being a very organic, spiritual designer who's steeped in this earth, wind, sky, fire, the five elements, and feng shui. And that has become her brand, whether she's designing spaces or whether she's designing product. Maybe you like the urban redefined, and that's really popular with millennials right now. In the first image here, a loft, exposing all of the beams, really in right now, leaving the cast iron columns exposed. And then if you look at the bottom, this is one of my dear friends who used to be my junior designer. She owns Edge Quarters, which is a really fabulous commercial design firm, Audrey Canfield and her firm. And they do offices across the country, and they also do other projects that are commercial related. But every one of their projects is unique. They have a millennial vibe. They definitely deal with social media in a big way, and all of their projects have that edge, but they all speak back to their brand. Something creative, something that speaks about the client. This is an office from Indeed. Or maybe you're a classic designer like Victoria Hagan. Her interiors are classic. She loves using crisp white with blues. She's definitely ventured into some more modern interiors as of late, but this really speaks to her brand. And even when you look at who she is and how she dresses, that speaks to her brand. So I want you to sell others on your brand. You want to think about up-leveling your brand consistency. That is the key. When you take your brand and you make it more visible and you up-level, and to do that, you do have to spend some money. You want to think about identifying that target market, creating your avatar, think about your personal image, think about your prospects, your clients, and your vendors, because they'll all take note. I promise you. And as we always do as designers, paying attention to every detail, how you write your email. What does your signature card look like in your email? Is it across all your platforms the same way? How you're answering questions when someone does an inquiry. How you're dealing with a cold call that might come in, whether it's via the web or the phone. Who's answering your phones? How are they answering your phones? What's happening to represent your brand in the way that you want to represent in order to key into that target market? And you might want to hire a social media expert. You might want to hire a branding consultant to make sure that you are hitting all of your marks. So now we have some time. We're going to go to some questions. So Jana, do you want to tell me if there are any questions out there?
Phyllis, we don't have any questions currently, but if anyone has questions they'd like to ask her, just enter those into the questions pane on the GoToWebinar side panel, and we'd love to answer them.
Well, while we're waiting for people to go to questions, I'm just going to put up my information here. After having a design business for 20 some odd years, I took a lot of the information that I had culled to make our business run more smoothly and effectively, and I created a book called the Interior Design Productivity Toolbox, which is a book full of checklists for every stage of the design process, from the time that you get a call from a prospect until you punch list. And there's a section for residential and also for commercial design. And I've included checklists for every type of drawing that you're going to do, for every type of specification you're going to have. There's a letter of agreement sample. There are purchase order samples. There are paint schedules, and a wonderful thing that we created was a cost budgeting sheet, and it's an Excel document, and all of the checklists and all of the other tools that we've created are up in the cloud. When you buy the book, there's a scratch-off code in the back of the book that allows you to go into the cloud and download everything as PDFs, and then you can make them your own. There are different PDF conversion tools on the web. ilovepdf.com is one of them, where you can convert PDFs to Word docs. You can brand them with your own logos and use them whenever you go out into the field. I know for me, the bathroom checklists, for instance, have been absolutely unbelievable. I can do 4 bathrooms with a client at a showroom in maybe 2 hours, and that's everything from your fixtures to your tile to your lighting to your accessories. And we can do all of that very, very efficiently because we have our checklists. And one time, my client was ready to leave, and I said, wait, we need to check the checklists. Sure enough, we had neglected to spec a toilet for one of the bathrooms. Thank goodness for the checklists, because they really do help you keep everything in line and in order. And so I urge you to take a look at the book. It's on wiley.com, amazon.com, and you can have it as a hard copy or you can have it as an e-copy, up to you. And I also wanted to say that we're going to be giving away one complimentary 20-minute strategy session that you can come to and tell me what you're challenged with in your business. And I'm giving one of those away at the end of our session to the first person that logged on today. So Jonna will be announcing who that is. And if you are interested in any consulting, you can reach us at info@harbingerdesignconsulting.com. You can take a look at our website. And if you'd like to receive our service offerings cost schedule, we're happy to send that out to you.
All right, so we have some great questions that have come in while we were discussing how to reach you. So
Awesome.
Nicola Rosendorf at Rosendorf Designs said, you mentioned social media experts or branding experts. Where could these professionals be found?
Well, they can be found in many places. You can look on Twitter. There's a ton of social media experts. I have a couple that I absolutely love that I use with the clients that I work with. Branding experts, again, you've got to do some homework. Who you can Google search. I have branding experts in different realms. There are some that focus only on design. Julia Malloy of juliamalloy.com and Malloy Management. She's amazing. She's a great branding expert. Deborah Ginsberg of Strategia Design is an amazing branding expert across many different platforms. So I highly recommend her. Donna Cravata is a social media guru. She's Social Pivot PR. And they're all really fabulous resources for you.
Great.
And hi, Nicola. I do know Nicola. I've met her at a seminar a number of months ago.
Awesome. Hopefully that helps everyone who's looking for some social media experts to help them get started with that. Okay, next up, Carolyn Brackett is wondering, how do you feel about advertising? Is this good for getting your brand seen, or is it seen as reaching? She's always been worried. She's always been word of mouth.
Okay, so I was always word of mouth for the first maybe 15 years of my business. I did a little bit of advertising, but mostly I was word of mouth. But today, you really can't be word of mouth anymore. That's a part of your business. I think it always will be. But if you are not out there and making your brand very visible for people to see, you are missing the boat. So I think you need to look at a very nice marketing budget at the beginning of each year and think about where you're going to put your marketing dollars in the various sections of the pie. You have a marketing pie. Your marketing pie should consist of advertising. It should consist of networking. It should consist of your social media. And it should consist of getting out there and doing events and speaking. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can split your marketing pie that we go into. We do deep dives on this with my coaching clients and in my programs. So those are just some tips that I can give you, but don't be afraid of advertising. No one sees it as reaching. It's a way to create more awareness and visibility for your brand.
Great. Melissa Wright is wondering, how important is ASID or NCIDQ membership these days,
I
in
think
your
it's
opinion?
even more important than ever. ASID, IIDA, whichever you align with, I think really matters to clients. You're having a one-up credential over someone that doesn't have these credentials, has not aligned themselves with a professional society. I think that taking the NCIDQ is going to become even more and more important as we move into a more competitive arena. There are so many design professionals out there touting their wares that don't have credentials, that maybe didn't even go to school. And having the NCIDQ next to your name shows that you have absolutely achieved that level of expertise in your realm. I would never hire an attorney that hadn't passed the bar, like a legal assistant. I wouldn't hire someone to be my accountant that didn't have a CPA. So why should somebody hire me without NCIDQ? And I think more and more you're going to see these credentials be important. I just became an ambassador for the CIDQ. So if anybody is in need of information on CIDQ, I'm happy to speak with you offline and guide you.
Great. Beth Reed says she always loves listening to you and she uses your book often. She is wondering if you have any tips on how to answer phone calls and what you send potential clients before the consultation.
Oh, great question. And thank you, Beth. That's so sweet. I'm so happy that you like our podcast from the Chaise Lounge. And I'm glad that the book is giving you some good value. So how do we answer the phone? Everyone in my firm always answers the phone DCI for the business of design. And if we're Harbinger Design Consulting, that's a mouthful. So we'll generally say HDC, this is so-and-so. So everybody knows who they're speaking with whenever we answer the phone. And then they tell us who they are and we figure out who's the right person to deal with this call. And if it's not the person that took the call, they'll say, well, can we take your information and can I have the appropriate person call you back? If it happens to be me answering the phone, I'll listen to the person's query. If it's a new client prospect, I'll also ask some targeted questions. I have a checklist for that also in the book. There's also a survey that you can create or a questionnaire. We created a WooFoo questionnaire that goes out when somebody makes an inquiry on our website. It goes right to that client. So it's very targeted and it absolutely gets rid of some of the people that would not be our ideal client because it talks about our minimum budgets and it does it in a non-threatening way because they're not on the phone with you and you don't have to say anything about it. You can say, well, you know, I can send you the questionnaire. We'd like you to fill it out prior to our consultation. We also charge for our consultations because if you're going to give value, you should be paid for your value. And then if a client does sign on, we back that consultation fee out of the design fee, and we tell them that before we make our consultation appointment. So that is something that we always do in our business.
Awesome. Sandy Murphy has a question about keeping her brand consistent. She just updated her website and it only has simple black lettering on her for her business name. She wants to make it exciting and she also wants to make sure people are aware that she's an interior designer. She's thinking of using a mirror on her homepage of her website with the business name in front of it so she can also use it for her business cards. She's wondering if you have any recommendations for how she can make her brand consistent while also keeping her business card and website exciting and also tell people that she is in fact an interior designer.
So I'd need to know more about you, Sandy, like who you are, what is your target audience, who are you trying to reach, and what type of firm you have. Because that all, when I did my branding the first time many, many years ago, I had all of those questions posed to me by my branding expert. There was a whole series of pages that I had to fill out and really think about it and really dive deep into what was my brand, Who am I trying to target? How do I want to do this? What colors do I love that I feel represent me? And then they came back with different things, and we kept going through different layers to get the brand to work. I mean, the mirror might be a very clever tool for you. I think that that could be interesting, but it could also be that reflective quality might deter from the text. I would need to see what you're talking about to really give you that guidance. But I think that if you use the same logo across your platforms, that is going to give you that consistency. Having design in your logo is probably a good idea because you want people to understand. Having a tagline and really thinking about what is your tagline, how that represents your brand, that also solidifies the message that you're trying to send.
Okay. All right. Jennifer is wondering, what is your advice if your current office does not represent your brand? It's a more cost prohibitive aspect of a brand to change or improve, but she understands how it is so important. So she's really curious about what your advice is on that.
Well, you want to think about, first of all, I don't know how big your office is, if it's just you, if you have other people working there. And that would be part of how I would answer this. But without knowing that, if you don't have the money to do a major revamping, perhaps changing the paint colors, perhaps getting a sign that you can put up with your logo would be really important as well. And maybe you also want to think about using an off-site office space when you're meeting with clients. I mean, most of my clients don't come here. I think someone might be typing. Is there a way to mute?
Oh, I'm sorry, Phyllis, that was me. I can mute myself.
Um, so perhaps if you don't have an office space you love and you're meeting with clients and you're in a region that has the spaces that you can rent, like we have WeWork, we have Breather, and there are a number of different office spaces that you can rent by the hour, by the month, by the day. Maybe that's a better way for you to go. For me personally, clients rarely want to come to me. They all want us to come to them. That's basically how our business has run from the get-go. So, you know, it hasn't been as important yet. When they do come here, my office represents our brand in a big way. Sometimes we'll do meetings here, and if we have a whole team here, my office, quote unquote, isn't big enough, we'll go into a separate space that I've created as a conference room. So there are ways to be more creative about your office space, but I need to know more about where this office space is. Is it in your home? Is it a storefront? Is it in an office building, to really give you the best guidance?
Okay. So how do you balance branding when you have both a retail store that sells to walk-in customers as well as a high-end design component of the company?
Well, there are a lot of designers that are doing just that. If you look at Kelly Wertzler, you look at Clodagh, she had a walk-in storefront. Kelly Wertzler has a gorgeous store in LA, and in addition, she has her offices. But the brand is still her. It speaks to her. And so if you have a retail store, make sure that your brand is as consistent across the retail end as it is on your design firm end. You have a different clientele, obviously, and a different price point, but it should still be representing you. And just like when you look at Michael Graves, when he first was doing the teapot for Alessi, and then he went to Target and did a teapot for the masses, it was still Michael Graves. You knew that it was Michael Graves. And all of the designers that have started to do designs that reach more people, they still are representing their brand in the same way that they always have. They want quality. They want people to have that brand loyalty, the trust factor, and it's still across the platforms, that same logoing.
Okay. Jane is wondering, she prefers to design a myriad of styles reflecting her client's unique vision. How do you think that affects her branding?
I think that a lot of designers do more eclectic work. I know I do. There's always a thread that travels through every project that I touch, but I definitely enjoy being able to look at different styles, because I would not always want to have that style in my own space, but I enjoy working in different styles. If I did the exact same thing every day, I think I'd want to shoot myself, because that's just not my personality. So I feel the same way. Yet my brand is consistent. It's DCI Studio, it's luxury, but luxury can have many different layers to it. So I think that if you are an eclectic designer, you may want to use that word in your second phrase when you have your tagline. So maybe the eclectic term gets put into your tagline so that people understand that you don't do just one thing.
Okay, that's great advice.
Time for one more.
Okay, so the last question is from Jennifer Boland. She said, you mentioned going to a showroom in the Hamptons. Are these showrooms something you recommend going to as often as possible? And what are the benefits of going to showrooms, in your opinion?
Okay, so it wasn't a showroom, it was a show house. And show houses are, for me, they're inspirational. I've been going to show houses since I was in school. And the first one I ever went to was Kips Bay, which is the premier New York show house. It's been around for ages, and a lot of the top Tony designers um, take rooms in a great show house. The Hamptons Show House this year for traditional home was different than years past. It was two homes, and so you got to tour two homes. And while, you know, as designers, we see things so differently than our potential clients would see them. And I'll share with you just really quickly, I was out there in the Hamptons this weekend with dear friends of ours that started out as my clients, and then we became really close friends with them as a couple, and we've traveled with them all over the world. And so we were staying at her Hamptons house in Southampton that I actually designed, and I said, come on, I'm going to treat you, we're going to the show house. And the comments that she made were so different than the comments that were running through my head. And I would point things out, I wouldn't even seen that. How did you even see that detail? But those are the things that I look for. I find great details, inspirational ideas when I go to show houses that then I interpret with my own sensibility and sense of style and design and bring them to my clients. So they're very much a source of inspiration, just like thumbing through a magazine can be, but they're live and they're palatable. And I think that it is a good thing for you to definitely go to show houses, support the designers in your community, support the charity that the show house is representing as well, and be inspired. And as far as showrooms, if that's what you thought I was mentioning, there are showrooms out on Long Island, like major fabric and furniture showrooms. But for me, I generally go to the showrooms in the city because that's my best source to bring my clients and to find new product and to be able to sell most effectively. And for those of you that don't have major markets, going to High Point is really important.
Okay, and I apologize. She did say show house, not showroom. That was my fault. But with
Okay.
that, thank you
Right.
so much, Phyllis, for joining us and, giving us this information about how we can improve our brand across all of our platforms. I'm sure we all have things that we have to think about for not only our businesses, but also our personal branding as well.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and thank you all for being here. And I hope to hear from some of you soon.
All right, thank you. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their afternoon today. Thank you so much for joining. All right, bye, Phyllis.